Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith, along with Kayleigh McEnany, Jessica Tarlov, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It is 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. America's warrior ethos is back. President Trump signing an executive order renaming the Department of Defense to its original title, the Department of War.
We won the First World War. We won the Second World War. We won everything before that and in between. And then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War.
The War Department is going to fight decisively, not endless conflicts. It's going to fight to win, not to lose.
Really, it has to do with winning. We should have won every war. We could have won every war, but we really chose to be very politically correct or wokey.
And that warrior ethos was on full display in the Caribbean after U.S. forces obliterated a suspected drug smuggling vessel off the coast of Venezuela, a boat laden with deadly poison and headed straight for American shores. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says this strike was not the end, it was the opening shot.
Every boatload of any form of drug that poisons the American people is an imminent threat. And at the DoD, our job is to defeat imminent threats. A foreign terrorist organization poisoning your people with drugs coming from a drug cartel is no different than Al-Qaeda. And they'll be treated as such as they were in international waters. We smoked the drug boat, and there's 11 narco-terrorists at the bottom of the ocean.
And yet the Democrats always have to reflexively oppose the president, even if it means siding with the narco-terrorists. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's biggest fan, Senator Chris Van Hollen, is back at it.
What this was an extrajudicial killing, pure and simple. It was illegal.
It's alarming, it's unprecedented, and it's dangerous. And it's the latest example of how Trump continues to overextend and abuse military power. He keeps pushing the boundaries to places we've never been before.
I guess it never surprised you where Democrats are go, what they'll defend or go after. But to the president's announcement a few moments ago, we all watched it live here on the Fox News channel. Now we're talking Department of War. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War. What do you think about all this, Jesse?
Well, I'm jealous of Pete. I mean, he got a name upgrade. I got to change my show's name. Jesse Waters Primetime just doesn't cut it.
Call it torture.
Isn't that what your show's called? So I don't know if Truman is a woke guy. From what I understand, after World War II, they needed a standing army to have troops stationed in Asia and in Europe to kind of keep the peace and maintain a posture during the Cold War. So we used to just have the draft every time we went to war. So even though we weren't at war, it was still a Cold War, and we needed to defend our interests. So we consolidated the Army, Navy, Marines, and there you go. It was the Defense Department. But it's now the Department of War, and I think America's enemies are upset. You know who's really upset? Van Hollen. So just came out today, and I'm sure Jessica saw it. The Democrats are really trying to reconnect with normal people. That was what it says. They've lost touch with normal people. Let me just explain how normal people think. When you see a video of a cocaine canoe get smoked out of the water by the U.S. military, normal people say, yeah, all right? We're like, smoke some narcos, goodbye, light them up, see you later. That's what normal people do. Normal people like to see the war on drugs fought as a war because it hasn't worked the way before. And a lot of people in America, normal people, have families that have lost people to drugs. So they see this canoe and they see a potential death coming. And we like to light this guy up. The Democrats see this and they call it an extrajudicial killing. Normal people don't talk like that. Normal people don't talk like extrajudicial. You know who talks like that? Lawyers. They have to stop sounding like lawyers. You sound weak. You sound wily. Lawyers are unpopular, almost as unpopular as pollsters, Jessica. And when you contrast that with Trump, who's taking strong action, and you have a guy that's saying extrajudicial killing, it just makes you guys look pathetic and not normal.
Jessica, to Jesse's point, I mean, are Democrats falling for the latest trap, or aren't they just playing right into the hands of Republicans with Democrats now defending drug lords?
No, I don't see it that way. And
I just want to, on the lawyer front, Jesse's always like, so embarrassing at the party of lawyers. If you guys had better lawyers, you would win more cases.
We've won everything
You
at the
lost
Supreme Court.
Literally every lawyer that showed up in court at the 2020 election
that
got
one.
laughed. Oh, the big one.
That one.
The big lie. The
That
big one?
was not really
Okay.
well argued. We got better ones this time, and we're like 8-0. But go ahead, Jessica. I don't want to take your time.
Any hoodles. Yeah, Harry Truman, not famously woke. I should note a bunch of presidents that served our country, not Donald Trump, but Truman, Eisenhower, JFK, LBJ, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, H.W. Bush, all of them was just fine to call it the Department of Defense. You know who else calls it the Department of Defense? The people that Donald Trump are jealous of. The Chinese and the Russians also use that name. It's because he thinks it sounds more dangerous, more big guy, more manly. Like Jesse said, it's a nickname. It's all a game. And first of all, it passed through Congress. So they're probably gonna have to go back through Congress to do it. So nothing has been changed except that their chyrons get to look that way. In terms of smoking the canoe with the drug lords on it, I don't know if it was extrajudicial. People have questions about how this happened, but our very own Jennifer Griffin was posting about the fact that now there are 8 Navy destroyers in the Caribbean, which certainly seems like we are going to war in that region. So typically the F-35s that are on there would be heading to Iran, for instance, to blow up a nuclear facility. What exactly are we doing? And then by extension of that, is there a chance that Donald Trump is trying to get us into a war with Venezuela so that he can use the Alien Enemies Act to try to pull off some of the deportations that he has failed to be able to do in the first few months of his administration?
That's a good conspiracy theory.
You like it?
I love it.
I give it to you.
I'll take it and run with it.
Okay.
Kaylee, your former boss, does this anything surprise you about him not wanting to be on defense, right?
No.
He always says in his, his debates, his interviews, never ever put yourself on defense. You always want to be on offense.
It's like you know him very well. Because I remember being in a meeting with him when I was on the campaign, and we were determining the name for the counterpart to Act Blue. So it was, do we want Act Red or Win Red? And I said, President Trump, we're winners. We win. He goes, yeah, that's right. Winning's better than acting. Win Red doesn't surprise me. He wants to take off defense and put offense. Why? Because he's a president who's been on offense. This is more than just a name, Jessica. This is an entire cohesive foreign policy that has been offense. Bombing Fordo, taking out the drug cartel ship. Go back to the first term, taking out Soleimani, taking out al-Baghdadi, striking in Syria. When Biden said don't, President Trump said do. And what you are looking at is a reflection of that. They are taking down defense. They are going to make this the Department of War. This is a president of offense. He doesn't say don't, because when you say don't, the enemies act. When you say don't, Putin goes into Ukraine. When you say don't, Hamas attacks on October 7th. When you say do, when you actually do an action, you achieve the respect of the world, and that's what's happened with President Trump.
You were on maternity leave. Congratulations, by the way, during the Alaska summit, where he thought he made a lot of progress. I'm sure you did.
You don't check
and
out.
then Putin showed up, and he's standing with President Xi, and Donald Trump says now they're
How
conspiring
many
against
wars
me.
did Biden end? Also, when I was on maternity leave, we got to the fact that there are 7 wars
very
that President
fresh,
Trump
even though
ended.
you've been on leave.
I am not fresh.
You are.
I'm very,
No,
and in
like-
fact, let
no,
me
no,
tell you
like
how
good fresh,
Let me
like
tell you how
sparky.
fresh I am not. I brought
Not
to
like
you.
rude.
You said you didn't know the legal justification for the striking of the ship. I brought it for you. OLC opinion from 1980, Article 2, Section 2, Commander-in-Chief power. So we've got that too. I'm fresh, and I brought my facts.
Wow, Jessica.
Boom.
What?
Greg, do you see any problem with this? By the way, that was fresh for you just a few moments ago.
I could smell it.
They're actively changing the names on those government buildings, as you can see, removing the defense.
I love the idea of changing names to represent the ideal, right? It's pure persuasion. This is why a lot of liberals like Jessica have to psychoanalyze him, because they don't understand persuasion. When you have somebody like Van Hollen who speaks like a lawyer, you're never going to persuade anybody. They should do this with all the departments. The ATF, which is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, just call it the Department of Fun. The IRS, the Department of Extortion, the Department of Indian Affairs, casinos. TSA, just call it second base. But Trump is the most anti-war president I've ever had the pleasure of being alive for. And all of his strikes, as you know, are highly specific. And you can only do that with a really, really powerful war machine. We predicted that the taking out the narco-terrorists, in a matter of time, the media and the Dems would side with the narco-terrorists because Trump did it. And also because their problems, i.e. the bad guys, always seem to matter more than ours, Americans, whether it's fentanyl, gangs, sex trafficking. I'm sure one of those drug smugglers, we will find out through Van Hollen, owned a puppy and used to read to his grandma late at night. But we talk about the past. We don't have to go that far for this distinction. Trump was making a distinction about the last 4 years. What did Biden do to the Department of Defense? He turned it into a laboratory for social experimentation. It wasn't about protecting the country. We saw it. Everybody knew it. It was about making it an enlightened vehicle for the rainbow people. They treated the military like a Disney remake. You know, let's update all the characters, right? We'll add a gay here, put a trans here, a non-binary woodland elf. And then Trump enters the picture. He says, no, 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 no. It's about war. And if it doesn't fit that definition, we don't want it. His critics don't understand this, and he drives them crazy because he operates on a superpower they don't have, which is persuasion. What is persuasion? Blunt language, usually that's pretty colorful and memorable. Department of War. You know, he understands incentives and disincentives. Department of War is a disincentive. What he also has you think past the sale. Calling it the Department of War then has you accept the premise in its own title. So when you hear things, you go, we need new missiles. Department of War. That sounds about right. We want a diversity month. Is that diverse? Is that Department of War? No, it isn't. So he creates this world for you, and it drives the left crazy because they still haven't found the person who can do this. Jessica.
I can do it.
All right.
Up for president.
Up next, the showdown in Chicago. ICE agents are ready for a raid.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.